The rain poured down hard that evening, washing away the day's heat and leaving behind that clean, fresh smell that usually lifted Lily's spirits. But not today. Today, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion as she walked through the park, taking the shortcut home. Her nursing uniform was hidden under her thin jacket, but her comfortable shoes were soaked through. Lily couldn't remember the last time she'd had a full night's sleep. Working double shifts at City Memorial Hospital had become her new normal. The bills kept piling up, her mother's medications weren't getting any cheaper, and those student loans seemed to grow instead of shrink, no matter how much she paid each month. Just keep moving, she whispered to herself, clutching her worn purse closer. Inside was exactly $23.40, all she had left until payday next week. She'd skipped the bus today, saving the fare for tomorrow when her shift started earlier. The park was mostly empty at this hour. Most people had enough sense to stay out of the rain, or had cars to drive them wherever they needed to go. Lily allowed herself a small smile at that thought. A car seemed like such a distant dream these days. Through the curtain of rain, she spotted someone, on a bench ahead. An older man sat hunched over, his clothes tattered and soaking wet. Something about the way he was sitting, the tight grip he had on his chest, sent alarm bells ringing through Lily's tired mind. Her feet were moving before she even made the conscious decision, years of nursing training kicking in automatically. "Sir, are you all right?" she called out, picking up her pace. The man didn't respond, just grimaced and clutched his chest tighter. When she reached him, Lily immediately noted his pale, clammy skin and the bluish tint to his lips. Classic signs of a possible heart attack. She dropped her purse on the wet bench and knelt in front of him, professional instincts taking over. "Sir, I'm a nurse. Can you tell me what you're feeling right now?" Her voice was calm but firm, the voice she used with patients in crisis. The man's eyes flickered open, revealing a startling blue that seemed out of place in his weathered face. "Chest hurts," he managed to say between labored breaths. "Like someone sitting on me." Lily nodded, already reaching for her phone. "I'm going to call an ambulance. Try to stay calm and breathe with me, okay?" The man nodded weakly as Lily dialed emergency services. She explained the situation concisely, giving their location and her assessment as a medical professional. After ending the call, she noticed the man was trying to stand. "Please stay seated," she said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Help is coming. Moving around might make things worse." "Can't afford—" the man started to protest, but another wave of pain made him wince. "Let's worry about that later," Lily said, though she understood his concern all too well. She knew exactly what an ambulance ride and emergency room visit would cost. It was the kind of math that kept her up at night with her own medical needs. While they waited, Lily kept talking to him, partly to keep him calm and partly to assess his mental status. His name was Robert, he told her. No last name offered. He didn't say much else about himself, but Lily didn't push. Instead, she monitored his pulse, counting under her breath, and kept him as comfortable as possible in the rain. When the ambulance arrived, its flashing lights cutting through the gray evening, Lily gave the paramedics her assessment. They quickly loaded Robert onto a stretcher. "Are you family?" one of them asked Lily. She shook her head. "No, I just found him." "I'm a nurse at City Memorial." The paramedic nodded. "Good thing you came along when you did." As they prepared to leave, Robert reached out and caught Lily's hand. His grip was surprisingly strong for someone in his condition. "Thank you," he said, those blue eyes intense despite his pain. "What's your name?" "Lily," she answered with a small smile. "Lily Chin." "Lily," he repeated as if memorizing it. Guardian angels still exist, it seems. Before she could respond, the paramedics were closing the doors and the ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing into the distance. Lily stood there in the rain for a moment longer, suddenly aware of how cold and wet she was. She picked up her purse, checking to make sure nothing had fallen out. The $23.40 were still there, along with her hospital ID badge. It wasn't until she reached the corner of the park that she realized she should have asked which hospital they were taking him to. City Memorial wasn't the only option in town, but then again, what did it matter? She'd done what any decent person would do, what any nurse would do. The next morning, Lily arrived at work bleary-eyed but punctual as always. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying the encounter in the park, wondering if Robert was okay. To her surprise, as she checked the overnight admissions during handover, she saw his name, Robert Doe, the placeholder name given to patients without identification. He'd been admitted to her ward. "How's the John Doe from last night?" she asked her colleague who was finishing the night shift. "The older guy from the park?"
"Stable now."
"Mild heart attack. No insurance that we know of, no ID, no phone. Says he doesn't have anyone to call." Her colleague shrugged. "Social workers seeing him this morning." During her rounds, Lily deliberately saved Robert's room for last. When she entered, he was sitting up in bed looking markedly better than the night before. The hospital gown and clean sheets made him look less like a homeless man and more like any other patient. Those striking blue eyes brightened when he saw her. "My guardian angel," he said, his voice stronger now. Lily smiled. "Good to see you looking better, Mr. Robert." "Just Robert is fine," he said. "And I have you to thank for being here at all." "I just did what anyone would do," Lily replied, checking his vitals and noting them on his chart. "No," Robert said firmly. "Not what anyone would do. What a good person would do. There's a difference." Lily felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. "Well, your numbers look good. The doctor will be by later to talk about what happens next." "They already told me I should stay another night for observation," Robert said, his eyes darting away for a moment. "I don't have insurance. Or money." Lily's heart sank. She knew what that meant. He'd receive the necessary care, but the billing department would be hounding him forever after. It was a story she'd seen play out countless times and one she feared for herself if anything serious ever happened to her or her mother. "The social worker might be able to help," she offered. "There are programs." "I've been through all that before," Robert interrupted gently. "It never quite works out the way they promise." Lily wasn't sure what to say to that because he wasn't wrong. The system had gaps big enough for people to fall through and disappear completely. As she prepared to move on to her other duties, Robert spoke again. "Can I ask you something, Lily?" She nodded. "Why were you walking in the park in the rain? Most people would take a bus or car on a night like that." The question caught her off guard with its directness. "I'm saving for my mom's birthday next week," she answered truthfully, not sure why she was sharing this with a patient. "Bus fare adds up." Robert's eyes seemed to look right through her, as if he could see the stack of bills on her kitchen table, the empty refrigerator, the broken heater she couldn't afford to fix. "Your mother is lucky to have you," he said simply. Lily left his room with an odd feeling she couldn't quite name. There was something about Robert, something in those perceptive blue eyes that made her feel like he saw more than most people did. Throughout her shift, Lily found reasons to check on Robert more often than was strictly necessary. He didn't talk much, but when he did, he asked thoughtful questions that suggested he was really listening to her answers. Never personal questions about her finances or struggles, but about her work, what she loved about nursing, what changes she'd make to the healthcare system if she could. By the end of her shift, Lily realized she'd told this stranger more about her hopes and frustrations than she'd told anyone in years. There was something freeing about talking to someone who had no connection to her regular life, like confessing to a traveler you know you'll never see again. As she prepared to leave for the day, Lily made one last stop at Robert's room. She found him staring out the window at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the early evening. "I'm heading out now," she said. "I'll see you tomorrow if they keep you another night." Robert turned to her with a small smile. "Thank you again, Lily, for everything." Something in his voice made it sound like goodbye. Lily frowned. "You're not planning to leave against medical advice, are you? Because that would be really dangerous after a heart attack, even a mild one." "No, nothing like that," Robert assured her. "I just wanted you to know that your kindness matters. People notice even when you think they don't." Lily left the hospital that evening thinking about Robert's words. As she waited at the bus stop, too tired to walk home today, she wondered about the strange man she'd helped and what his story might be. Everyone had a story, her mother always said. Everyone was fighting battles others couldn't see. What Lily couldn't possibly know was how dramatically her simple act of kindness in the rain would change her life forever. Or that Robert was not at all who he appeared to be. The next morning, Lily arrived at her shift to discover something odd. Robert's bed was empty, the sheets freshly changed as if he'd never been there at all. "Where's the patient from room 302, Robert?" she asked the head nurse, trying to keep her voice casual. Discharged himself at 5 a.m., the head nurse replied without looking up from her computer. Against medical advice, of course. Left before the doctor's rounds, Lily frowned. Did he say where he was going? Honey, we don't have time to track every patient who walks out these doors, the head nurse said, finally looking up. Especially ones with no insurance. One less bed to worry about. The coldness of the statement stung, though Lily knew it wasn't personal. This was the reality of an overworked, underfunded hospital system. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of concern for the old man. Where would he go? Back to the park bench in the rain? Throughout her shift, Lily found herself glancing at room 302 whenever she passed. By afternoon, a new patient had taken Robert's place, a teenage girl recovering from appendicitis. Life moved on in the hospital. It always did. When Lily's shift ended, she stood at the bus stop counting the coins in her wallet. She had just enough for the fare home, but her stomach growled, reminding her she'd skipped lunch to save money. 2 more days till payday, she whispered to herself, a mantra she repeated often. As the bus pulled away from the hospital, Lily gazed out the window, scanning the streets and park benches they passed, half expecting to see Robert huddled somewhere. But there was no sign of him. At home, Lily's tiny apartment welcomed her with familiar problems. The dripping faucet she couldn't afford to fix, the stack of bills on the kitchen counter, and the blinking light on her answering machine. 3 messages, all from her mother's assisted living facility. With a sigh, she pressed play. The first 2 messages were reminders about late payments. The third, from the facility director, was more concerning. Ms. Chen, we need to discuss your mother's situation immediately. Please call us back. Lily's heart sank. She knew what that meant. They were going to ask her to move her mother out if she couldn't catch up on payments. The thought of her gentle, confused mother being displaced yet again made Lily's eyes sting with tears. She made dinner, ramen noodles with an egg thrown in, and sat at her small table, calculator in hand, trying to figure out impossible math. Even with her overtime, even skipping bus rides and lunches, she was falling behind. The truth was painful but clear. She needed more money, and soon. After dinner, Lily pulled out the newspaper and circled potential second jobs. Waitressing, night security, cleaning offices. Anything that would work around her hospital schedule. She'd done it before, working 2 jobs. It was exhausting but necessary. Her phone rang, interrupting her job search. It was Jenny from the hospital. Lily, you need to come in tomorrow morning before your shift. Ms. Patterson wants to see you. Ms. Patterson was the hospital administrator. Being summoned to her office was rarely good news. Did she say why? Lily asked, her throat suddenly dry. No, but... Jenny hesitated. There's talk about staff reductions. Budget cuts again. After hanging up, Lily sat in stunned silence. Losing her nursing job would be catastrophic. Despite the long hours and modest pay, it was stable work that used her skills. More importantly, it included health benefits that covered some of her mother's medications. Sleep eluded her that night. Lily tossed and turned, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios and desperate plans. By morning, dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she dressed carefully in her neatest uniform. If she was going to be let go, she would at least maintain her dignity. The hospital corridors seemed longer than usual as Lily walked to the administration wing. She knocked on Ms. Patterson's door with a hand that only trembled slightly. "Come in," called a voice. Ms. Patterson wasn't alone. A younger woman in a tailored suit sat across from her desk, her back to the door. Both women looked up when Lily entered. "Ah, Ms. Chen. Thank you for coming in early," Ms. Patterson said, gesturing to a chair. "This is Ms. Winters from the hospital's financial department." Lily's heart sank further. The financial department. This was definitely about job cuts. "Ms. Chen," Ms. Patterson continued, shuffling some papers.
"Something unusual has happened. Here it comes," thought Lily.
Bracing herself. "An anonymous donor has paid off all outstanding medical bills for patients in your ward who were treated this past week." Lily blinked, confused. "I'm sorry?" Ms. Winters spoke up. "Not only that, but this donor has established a fund specifically to help patients without insurance who come through the emergency room." This wasn't at all what Lily had expected. "That's wonderful," she said cautiously. "But why are you telling me?" Ms. Patterson and Ms. Winters exchanged a look. "The donation came with a condition," Ms. Patterson explained. "That you oversee which patients receive assistance from this fund." Lily sat back, stunned. Me, but I'm just a floor nurse. I don't have any experience with—" "The donor was quite specific," Ms. Winters interrupted. "They said, and I quote, 'Nurse Chen has the compassion and judgment to identify those most in need.'" "But I don't understand," Lily said, her mind racing. "How does this donor even know me?" Ms. Patterson shrugged. "They wish to remain anonymous. All we know is that they made a 7-figure donation and requested you by name." 7 figures. Lily felt lightheaded. Who would donate millions of dollars and ask for her, a nobody by name? "There's more," Ms. Winters continued. "The donor also established a scholarship fund for nurses pursuing advanced education. You've been named as the first recipient." The room seemed to tilt. A scholarship? Advanced education had been Lily's dream for years. To become a nurse practitioner and eventually help reform the healthcare system that failed so many. But she'd long ago accepted that dream as impossible. "This can't be real," she whispered. "I assure you it's very real," Ms. Patterson said, sliding a folder across her desk. "These are the details. The scholarship covers full tuition, books, and provides a stipend so you can reduce your hours here while studying." Lily's hands shook as she opened the folder. The documents inside confirmed everything: amounts, terms, timelines. This was really happening. "There's one more thing," Ms. Winters said, reaching into her briefcase. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to Lily. "The donor asked us to give you this personally." The envelope was heavy, cream-colored paper with just Lily written on the front in elegant handwriting. She carefully opened it, aware of the 2 women watching her curiously. Inside was a check made out to her personally for $50,000, along with a note on the same heavy paper: "For your mother's care and your peace of mind. Guardian angels deserve to be looked after too. Thank you for your kindness in the rain." There was no signature. Lily's vision blurred with tears. She knew immediately who had done this, but it was impossible. Robert had been a homeless man in ragged clothes, hadn't he? "Miss Chen? Are you all right?" Ms. Patterson asked, concerned. Lily nodded, unable to speak. The check in her hands would solve her most immediate problems: her mother's care facility, the overdue bills, the broken heater. But who was Robert really? And why would he do this? The rest of that day passed in a blur. Lily went through her duties mechanically, her mind struggling to process what had happened. Her colleagues noticed her distraction. "You okay?" Jenny asked during their break. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Lily assured her. "Just processing some unexpected news." After her shift, instead of heading home, Lily found herself walking to the park where she'd found Robert. The evening was clear, unlike that rainy night, and the bench where he'd sat was empty. She settled onto it, trying to make sense of everything. A man in ragged clothes with no identification or insurance had somehow donated millions to the hospital and given her a life-changing check. It didn't add up. Unless he wasn't who he appeared to be. Lily remembered Robert's intelligent blue eyes, the way he'd asked such thoughtful questions, how he'd seemed to see right through her. Could he have been someone else entirely? Someone wealthy, powerful even, disguised as a homeless man? But why? As the sun set, Lily made a decision. Tomorrow, she would deposit the check and pay her mother's bills. She would accept the scholarship and the responsibility of overseeing the patient fund. Whatever Robert's reasons for his generosity, she wouldn't waste this opportunity. What Lily didn't know as she sat on that park bench was that Robert was closer than she thought. In a sleek black car parked just within view of the park, an older gentleman with striking blue eyes watched her through tinted windows. "Is that her, sir?" asked his driver. "Yes," Robert answered, no longer in ragged clothes but dressed in an impeccable suit. "That's her. Shall I drive you over to speak with her?" the driver offered. Robert shook his head. "Not yet. The time isn't right." He continued watching Lily, a small smile playing on his lips. "But soon." As Lily finally rose and walked toward the bus stop, Robert's car pulled away in the opposite direction. His plan was just beginning to unfold. Back in her apartment that night, Lily couldn't sleep again, but for entirely different reasons. The check sat on her kitchen table, illuminated by the single overhead light. $50,000. It would solve so many problems, but it also tied her to a mystery she couldn't unravel. Her phone rang, startling her from her thoughts. It was the night nurse from her mother's facility. Ms. Chen, I thought you should know. All the outstanding balances for your mother's care have been paid in full, and someone delivered a beautiful flower arrangement to her room today. Lily gripped the phone tighter. Who paid it? Who sent the flowers? I don't know about the payment. That went through the main office. But the flowers came with a card. The nurse paused. It just said, "From a friend who values your daughter's kindness." After hanging up, Lily sat motionless, overwhelmed by this new development. Robert, whoever he really was, had not only helped her but had reached out to her mother as well. The next few days brought more surprises. The broken heater in her apartment was mysteriously fixed while she was at work. Her student loan servicer called to inform her that an anonymous benefactor had paid off half her debt. The landlord announced he wouldn't be raising her rent after all. It was as if an invisible hand was smoothing away all the rough edges of her life, one by one. At the hospital, Lily began her new role overseeing the Patient Assistance Fund. It was deeply satisfying work, identifying patients who, like Robert had appeared to be, had fallen through the cracks of the system. She could see the relief in their eyes when she told them they wouldn't face financial ruin along with their illness. But through it all, one question burned in her mind. Who was Robert really? And why had he chosen her for this strange, wonderful transformation of her life? The answer would come sooner than she expected and in a way she could never have imagined. And when it did, Lily would discover that kindness offered without expectation sometimes returns in ways that change everything. 3 months passed, and Lily's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. With her mother's care secure and her own financial burdens lightened, she had begun taking classes toward her nurse practitioner degree. The mysterious donations had stopped after those first incredible weeks, which was almost a relief. The constant surprises had left her feeling off balance, waiting for the other shoe to drop. At the hospital, Lily had found her voice in her new role. She advocated fiercely for patients who reminded her of Robert, those who arrived with nothing but needed everything. The Patient Assistance Fund had already helped dozens of people avoid the crushing weight of medical debt. You've really made that fund count, Dr. Patel told her one afternoon as they reviewed cases together. The board is impressed. They're talking about expanding it to other departments. Lily smiled but said nothing of the mysterious benefactor who had made it all possible. She had stopped trying to explain Robert to others after seeing their skeptical looks. A homeless man who turned out to be a secret millionaire? It sounded like a fairy tale, but Lily knew it was real. She still had the note he'd left her, carefully preserved in her dresser drawer at home. On quiet nights, she would sometimes take it out and read it again. Guardian angels deserve to be looked after too. One Tuesday morning, Ms. Patterson stopped Lily in the hallway. "Oh, Lily, I've been looking for you. You received this." She handed Lily a cream-colored envelope, the same heavy paper as Robert's note. Lily's heart jumped as she took it with suddenly trembling fingers. "Thank you," she managed to say, tucking it into her pocket until she could read it privately. During her break, Lily found an empty consultation room and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was an elegant invitation. City Memorial Hospital cordially invites Nurse Lily Chen to attend the annual fundraising gala as an honored guest on Saturday, September 15th at the Grand Hotel. Black tie optional. Your presence is requested at 7 p.m. sharp. A handwritten note at the bottom simply read, "Please come. It's important. R.R. Robert." After 3 months of silence, he was reaching out. Lily's first instinct was excitement, quickly followed by anxiety. The annual fundraising gala was the hospital's most prestigious event, attended by wealthy donors, hospital executives, and city officials. What would she wear? How would she fit in? And most importantly, would she finally meet the real Robert? That evening, Lily stood in front of her small closet, surveying her options with dismay. Nothing suitable for a black tie gala. On her nurse's salary, even with the financial help she'd received, a formal gown was an extravagance she couldn't justify. Her phone rang. "Jenny from work. Did you get an invitation to the gala?" "I just heard they invited you." "Yes," Lily sighed. "But I don't think I can go. I don't have anything to wear and I can't afford—" "Check your front door," Jenny interrupted, an odd note in her voice. "What?" "Why, just do it. Trust me." Confused, Lily went to her apartment door and opened it. There, hanging from the doorknob, was a garment bag from Elegance, the most exclusive boutique in the city. "Jenny, what did you do?" Lily whispered into the phone. "It wasn't me," Jenny replied. "A delivery person dropped it off about an hour ago. I was going to call you, but then my shift got crazy." "Open it." With shaking hands, Lily brought the garment bag inside and unzipped it. Nestled within tissue paper was the most beautiful dress she had ever seen. A floor-length gown in deep emerald green that shimmered under the lights. The tag confirmed it was her size exactly. A small box inside the bag held matching shoes and a clutch purse. "Oh my God," Jenny breathed when Lily described it. "It has to be from him, right? Your mystery man?" "He's not my mystery man," Lily protested, but her heart was racing. "But yes, I think it must be from Robert." The night of the gala arrived clear and cool. Lily had never been to the Grand Hotel before. It was the kind of place that existed in a different world from her own. As the taxi pulled up to the entrance, she fought the urge to tell the driver to keep going, to take her back to the familiar comfort of her small apartment. But Robert had asked her to come. And after everything he had done for her mother, for her patients, how could she refuse? The lobby of the Grand Hotel gleamed with marble and crystal, echoing with the soft murmur of expensive conversations. Lily clutched her invitation tightly, feeling out of place despite the beautiful dress. "Nurse Chen?" A uniformed attendant approached her. "We've been expecting you. Please, follow me." He led her through the crowd to the ballroom entrance, where Ms. Patterson waited in a black cocktail dress. "Lily, you look stunning," she exclaimed, air-kissing Lily's cheek. "Come, let me introduce you to some people. Everyone's been asking about the nurse who's been making such waves with the Patient Assistance Fund." For the next hour, Lily shook hands with hospital board members, wealthy donors, and city officials. She explained the fund's work, careful to credit the anonymous donor rather than take praise herself. But through every conversation, her eyes scanned the crowd, looking for Robert, or whoever he might really be. Just when she was beginning to think he wouldn't show, the lights dimmed slightly and the hospital's chief of medicine took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your generous support of City Memorial Hospital," he began. "Tonight, we are honored to have with us someone who rarely makes public appearances, but whose philanthropy has changed countless lives in our community and beyond. Please welcome the chairman of Westbrook Enterprises, Mr. Robert Westbrook." Lily froze, her champagne glass halfway to her lips. Westbrook, one of the wealthiest men in the country, owner of tech companies, real estate developments, and investment firms, notoriously private, and apparently the man she had found having a heart attack on a park bench. The crowd applauded as a tall, distinguished-looking man with silver hair and striking blue eyes took the stage. Lily recognized those eyes immediately, intelligent, perceptive, kind. "Thank you," Robert Westbrook said, his voice carrying easily through the ballroom. "I'm not one for speeches, but tonight I want to share something personal with you all." The room quieted. 3 months ago, I found myself in an unusual situation. For reasons I won't bore you with, I was dressed in old clothes, sitting on a park bench in the rain. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Lily stood frozen, hardly breathing. What began as a simple exercise in perspective became something quite different when I experienced chest pains. A mild heart attack, as it turned out. And there, in that moment of vulnerability, I was shown extraordinary kindness by a young nurse who had every reason to walk past and mind her own business. Robert's eyes found Lily in the crowd, and he smiled directly at her. This nurse, and who had worked a double shift, who was walking in the rain to save bus fare, who had $23 to her name, stopped to help a stranger she believed to be homeless. She used her last phone credit to call an ambulance. She visited me in the hospital. And she did all this expecting nothing in return. The crowd turned, following Robert's gaze until all eyes were on Lily. Her cheeks burned, but she couldn't look away from those familiar blue eyes. "In my world," Robert continued, "people are kind when they want something. They help when there's something to gain. True compassion, helping simply because someone needs help, has become so rare that when I experienced it, I almost didn't recognize it." He stepped away from the microphone for a moment, seeming to collect himself. "Tonight, I'm announcing the creation of the Chen Compassion Foundation, with an initial endowment of $50 million. Gasps and whispers rippled through the room. Lily felt lightheaded, gripping the back of a chair for support. This foundation will not only continue the work of the Patient Assistance Fund at City Memorial, but will expand to address healthcare inequality throughout our city and eventually our state. And I can think of no one better to lead this foundation than the woman who inspired it, Nurse Lily Chen. The applause was thunderous. Lily stood rooted to the spot, unable to process what was happening. People were patting her back, shaking her hand, but she barely noticed them. Robert stepped down from the stage and made his way through the crowd toward her. As people realized who he was approaching, they parted to make way, and then he was standing before her. Not the homeless man in ragged clothes, not the hospital patient in a gown, but Robert Westbrook in an immaculate tuxedo, yet the eyes were the same. "Hello, Lily," he said quietly, the microphone now gone. "I hoped you would come tonight." "It was you," she whispered, finding her voice. "All this time, but why? Why pretend to be homeless? Why choose me?" Robert glanced around at the curious onlookers. "Perhaps we could speak somewhere more private." He guided her through a side door onto a small terrace overlooking the hotel gardens. The night air was cool against Lily's flushed skin. "I should explain," Robert said once they were alone. "For the past few years, I've been conducting what you might call social experiments. I disguise myself as someone less fortunate and observe how people react." "You test people," Lily said, understanding dawning. Robert nodded. "Before I invest in a company, I want to know the character of its leadership. Before I donate to a charity, I want to see how they treat those they claim to serve. People reveal their true nature when they think no one important is watching." He leaned against the terrace railing, those blue eyes thoughtful. "That night in the park, I wasn't specifically testing anyone. I was just unobserving. The heart attack wasn't planned. Obviously, Lily echoed faintly, still trying to absorb all of this. "What you did. Stopping to help. Using your last phone credit, visiting me in the hospital. It affected me deeply. It reminded me why I started these experiments in the first place. To find the good in people, not just the bad. So everything since then, the donations, the scholarship, my mother's care, it was all because I helped you?" Robert smiled. "Yes, but also because of who you are, Lily. I've watched you these past months. How you advocate for your patients. How you've used the fund wisely. How you didn't let sudden financial security change your compassion or work ethic." He took a step closer. "The foundation isn't charity. It's an investment in someone I believe can create real change. If you want the position, of course." Lily's mind raced with the possibilities. Leading a foundation with resources to actually help people on a large scale. It was beyond her wildest dreams. But also terrifying. "I don't know anything about running a foundation," she admitted. "I'm just a nurse." "You're not just anything," Robert said firmly. "You're exactly what this foundation needs. Someone who understands the problems from the inside. The rest can be learned." A soft breeze stirred Lily's hair as she considered his words. Through the glass doors, she could see the glittering crowd, so different from her daily life of hospital corridors and bus stops. "Why me?" she asked finally. The question that had haunted her for months. "Out of all the people you must meet, why choose me for this?" Robert was quiet for a moment, looking out at the darkened gardens. "Do you know how rarely people surprise me anymore, Lily? How rarely they exceed my expectations rather than disappointing them? You did both." He turned back to her, his expression earnest. "I didn't choose you just because you helped me. I chose you because when you thought I was nothing, a homeless man with no prospects, no future, nothing to offer you, you saw me as someone worth helping anyway. That kind of compassion can't be taught. It can't be bought. It's either there or it isn't." Lily felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "And the foundation, you really want me to lead it?" "Yes," Robert said simply. "With guidance, of course." "You won't be alone," a thought struck her. "Is that why you're telling me all this now?"
"For the foundation?"
Robert's expression changed subtly, a flicker of something Lily couldn't quite read passing over his features. "Partly," he admitted. "But there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. Something more personal." Before he could continue, the terrace door opened and Ms. Patterson poked her head out. "Oh, sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Westbrook, the mayor has arrived and is asking to speak with you." Robert nodded. "Thank you. I'll be right in." Once she had gone, he turned back to Lily. "Duty calls, unfortunately, but we have more to discuss. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Not as donor and recipient, not as employer and employee, just as Robert and Lily. The invitation hung in the air between them, loaded with implications Lily wasn't sure she was ready to consider. This man had changed her life, had been watching her from afar, had orchestrated this entire evening. And yet those blue eyes were the same ones that had thanked her in the rain, that had asked her thoughtful questions from a hospital bed, that had seen her, really seen her, when she was invisible to so many others. "Yes," she said finally. "I'd like that." Robert's smile was warm, genuine. "Good. My driver will pick you up at 7. As they walked back into the ballroom, rejoining the gala in progress, Lily felt as though she was standing on the edge of something vast and unknown. Whatever happened next would change her life yet again. But this time, she was walking into it with her eyes open. The next evening, Lily stood in front of her mirror, scrutinizing her reflection. She had left work early, with Jenny's enthusiastic encouragement to prepare for dinner with Robert Westbrook. The thought still seemed surreal. "It's just dinner," she told her nervous reflection, "with one of the richest men in the country, who you once found having a heart attack on a park bench, while he was disguised as a homeless man. Perfectly normal." A soft laugh escaped her lips at the absurdity of it all. She had chosen a simple blue dress, not the glamorous gown from the gala, but something nice that she'd bought with part of Robert's initial gift. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves past her shoulders, and she wore the small pearl earrings that had belonged to her grandmother. At precisely 7 o'clock, her buzzer rang. Downstairs, a sleek black car waited, the driver holding the door open. As Lily approached, she half expected to see Robert inside, but the back seat was empty. "Good evening, Ms. Chen," the driver said politely. "Mr. Westbrook is waiting for you at the restaurant." The drive took them out of her neighborhood, past the bustling downtown, and up into the hills overlooking the city. They finally stopped at a small, unassuming building set back from the road. No flashy sign, no valet parking, just soft light glowing from windows framed by climbing roses. "This is Lucia's," the driver explained, opening her door. "It's Mr. Westbrook's favorite restaurant. Very private." Inside, the restaurant was warm and intimate, with perhaps a dozen tables, most of them empty. The hostess led Lily to a corner table where Robert stood waiting. He wore a well-tailored suit, but more casual than his tuxedo from the night before. His silver hair caught the candlelight, and those striking blue eyes lit up when he saw her. "Lily," he said, coming around to pull out her chair. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me," she replied, suddenly shy. In the hospital, she had spoken to him easily, one person to another. But now, knowing who he really was, she felt the weight of their differences acutely. As if reading her thoughts, Robert smiled. "I hope you'll still talk to me the way you did when you thought I was just a patient." That honesty was refreshing. Lily nodded, relaxing slightly. "I'll try. But you have to admit, this is a bit overwhelming." "Fair enough," he conceded. "Perhaps we can start simple. Tell me about your day." And somehow that ordinary question broke the tension. Lily found herself describing a patient who had made remarkable progress, a new doctor who was still finding his footing, the scholarship application she had submitted for the next level of her program. Robert listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was truly engaged. When their meals arrived, brought by the chef herself, who clearly knew Robert well, the conversation turned to him. "So," Lily said, gathering her courage, "all those social experiments you mentioned, how long have you been doing them?" Robert took a sip of his wine before answering. "Almost 7 years now. It started after my wife passed away." "I'm sorry," Lily said softly. She hadn't known he was a widower. "Thank you. Eleanor was extraordinary. We were married for 36 years. A shadow passed over his face. After she died, I threw myself into work. Became even more focused on building wealth, expanding the business. I thought it would fill the void." He paused, lost in memory. "One night I was leaving a board meeting. We had just cut 500 jobs to improve the quarterly numbers, and I saw one of our former employees sleeping in his car in the parking garage. He had his children with him." Lily watched Robert's expression darken. "That man had worked for my company for 12 years, and there he was, living in his car because of a decision I had made while looking at spreadsheets rather than human beings. Eleanor would have been ashamed of me." "What did you do?" Lily asked quietly. "In that moment, I gave him enough money to get back on his feet. But afterward, I realized I had lost touch with the real impact of my decisions. I was surrounded by people who told me what I wanted to hear. So I decided to see things from a different perspective, by pretending to be homeless. Robert nodded. Among other things, I've posed as a janitor in my own buildings, a taxi driver, an elderly man needing assistance. I've sat in waiting rooms and emergency departments. I've applied for jobs at companies I actually own. He leaned forward, eyes intense. Do you know what I've learned, Lily? Most people don't see others who they think can't help them. They look right through them, and a surprising number are actively cruel. But not everyone, Lily pointed out. No, he agreed, his expression softening. Not everyone. There are people like you, who help simply because help is needed, but they're rarer than they should be. The conversation flowed easily after that. Robert told stories of his undercover experiences, some funny, some sad, all revealing. Lily shared her own observations from years of nursing, where she'd seen both the best and worst of humanity in crisis. As they finished dessert, a delicate tiramisu they shared between them, Robert grew more serious. Lily, there's something I want to ask you, and I hope you won't find it presumptuous. She looked up, suddenly nervous again. What is it? The foundation is just the beginning. I've been thinking about my legacy, about what happens to Westbrook Enterprises in the future. He hesitated, then continued. I'm not getting any younger, and that heart attack, mild as it was a reminder of my mortality. I need someone I can trust to help shape the future of my companies, someone with compassion, intelligence, and integrity. Lily's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. Are you offering me a job? In a manner of speaking. Robert's eyes held hers steadily. I'm offering you a partnership. I want to mentor you, teach you about business, philanthropy, investment, everything I know. Not just to run the foundation, but eventually to help guide all of Westbrook Enterprises toward a more humane vision. Lily set down her spoon, feeling slightly dizzy. But I don't know anything about business. I'm a nurse, not an executive. Exactly, Robert said with unexpected intensity. That's precisely why it needs to be you. The business world is full of people who know spreadsheets but not humanity. You understand what matters most, people. The rest can be taught, but why me? Surely there are people with both business experience and compassion. Robert was quiet for a moment, seeming to choose his words carefully. There's something I haven't told you, Lily. Something about why I was in that park that night. He took a deep breath. For the past few years, I've been searching for someone, not just an employee or a foundation director, but someone who could eventually inherit everything. Someone who would use my wealth and influence the way Eleanor would have wanted, the way I should have all along. Lily's heart pounded in her ears. You want me to inherit your company? But you must have family. I have a nephew, Robert acknowledged. He's already wealthy from his trust fund, and he has no interest in philanthropy or social responsibility. Eleanor and I never had children of our own. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his. I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I know it's overwhelming, but I want you to consider it. Training under me, learning the business, and eventually taking over. Lily sat back, trying to process the magnitude of what he was proposing. This is a lot to take in. I know, Robert said gently. Take all the time you need. But know this, I've watched you carefully these past months. How you've handled the patient fund, how you've continued your education, how you've cared for your mother. You have something rare, Lily. Something that can't be taught or bought. You see people as people, not as assets or liabilities. The drive back to her apartment was quiet, Lily lost in thought. Robert had offered to accompany her but seemed to understand when she said she needed time to think. As the car pulled up to her building, the driver handed her a small envelope. Mr. Westbrook asked me to give you this. Inside her apartment, Lily opened the envelope with trembling fingers. It contained a business card with Robert's private number and a short note. No pressure, no timeline. Just an opportunity when you're ready. She placed the card on her kitchen counter and sank into a chair, her mind whirling with possibilities and questions. Why her? What would this mean for her nursing career, her education, her mother? And most troubling, was this really about her capabilities, or was there something else motivating Robert's interest? The next morning, Lily woke early after a restless night. She had the day off, a rare luxury she usually spent catching up on chores or visiting her mother. But today she needed clarity. She dressed quickly and headed for the one place she always felt centered, the park where it all began. The morning was crisp, leaves beginning to turn golden at their edges. Lily found the bench, their bench, and sat down, watching joggers and dog walkers enjoying the early sunshine. Quite a view, isn't it? The voice beside her made Lily jump. Robert stood there, dressed casually in slacks and a sweater, looking nothing like a billionaire and everything like the thoughtful patient she had come to know in the hospital. "How did you know I'd be here?" she asked as he sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. "I didn't," he admitted. "I come here sometimes myself to think. It's where my life changed course." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching a young mother help her toddler feed the ducks. "I've been thinking about your offer," Lily said finally, "and I have questions." "A lot of them," Robert nodded. "I would expect nothing less." "Ask me anything." Lily turned to face him directly. "First, why the disguise? Why not just approach me normally if you were looking for someone to mentor?" "Would you have believed my intentions?" Robert asked simply. "Or would you have assumed I wanted something from you?" That's the problem with wealth and power. They create suspicion. No one believes in pure intentions anymore. She had to admit he had a point. "And this partnership you're proposing, what exactly would it involve?" "Initially, you would continue your education, both formal and informal. You'd work closely with me, learning how Westbrook Enterprises operates, sitting in on meetings, traveling with me when necessary. I'd introduce you as my protege. And my nursing career, the foundation. The foundation would be your primary focus at first. As for nursing, that would be entirely up to you. I would never ask you to give up something that clearly means so much to you." Lily nodded slowly. "And in the future?" "When you talk about inheritance," Robert's blue eyes were serious. "Eventually, yes, I would want you to take over everything. The companies, the investments, the philanthropic work. But that's years away and only if you want it." "That's the part I don't understand," Lily said, frustration creeping into her voice. "Why me? You've known me for 3 months. You're talking about handing over billions of dollars and multiple companies to someone you barely know. It doesn't make sense." Robert was quiet for so long that Lily thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft with memory. "Eleanor and I met when we were very young. She was working as a waitress to put herself through college. I was just starting my first company, eating at that same diner every day because it was all I could afford." He smiled at the recollection. "One day a man came in, clearly homeless, clearly hungry. The manager was about to throw him out when Eleanor stepped in. She paid for his meal out of her own pocket, sat with him while he ate, listened to his story. She didn't know I was watching. She didn't do it to impress anyone. His eyes, when they met Lily's, were bright with unshed tears. That moment, seeing her kindness, her fundamental decency, that's when I fell in love with her. And throughout our marriage, she was my moral compass. She kept me human when success could have made me cold." Robert gestured to the park around them. "When I saw you that night helping me when you had every reason not to, it was like seeing Eleanor again. That same essential goodness, the same compassion without calculation." He took a deep breath. "I'm not looking for an employee, Lily. I'm looking for someone who embodies the values Eleanor and I built our lives around. Someone who will use what I've created to make the world better, not just richer." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. Whatever else might be true, Robert genuinely believed in what he was saying. "I need time," Lily said finally. "This is too big a decision to make quickly." "Of course," Robert agreed immediately. "Take all the time you need. The foundation position is yours regardless. Everything else is an open door, not an obligation." As they sat together on that park bench watching the world go by, Lily felt a strange sense of coming full circle. 3 months ago, a simple act of kindness had set her life on an unexpected path. Now she stood at another crossroads, facing a future she could never have imagined. What she didn't yet realize was that Robert had one more surprise waiting, one that would force her to confront not just a career decision, but the unexpected stirrings of her heart. The weeks following Lily's conversation with Robert in the park were a whirlwind of change. She continued her nursing shifts, but now split her time with the foundation, learning its operations and beginning to shape its future. Robert was true to his word, offering guidance but giving her real authority to make decisions. They met regularly, sometimes at his office downtown, sometimes over dinner, sometimes walking through the park where they had first met. Each meeting deepened Lily's understanding of Robert's vision and her potential role in it. She found herself looking forward to these times together, enjoying his stories, his perspective, and the way he valued her opinions. "You're a natural at this," he told her one evening as they reviewed grant applications together in his home office. "You see beyond the numbers to the human impact." Robert's house was not what Lily had expected from a billionaire. Certainly it was large and beautifully appointed, but it was also surprisingly warm and livable, filled with books, art that told stories rather than showcased value, and photographs of his life with Eleanor. As October turned to November, Lily realized she was standing at the edge of a decision. The foundation role already felt right, a perfect blend of her nursing compassion and newfound administrative skills. But Robert's larger offer still intimidated her. Could she really step into the world of corporate leadership? Would people respect her, or would they see her as Robert's charity project? And there was another factor complicating her decision, one she was reluctant to acknowledge even to herself. She was developing feelings for Robert that went beyond admiration or gratitude. Despite their age difference, despite their different backgrounds, she found herself drawn to his kindness, his intelligence, his quiet strength. "This is ridiculous," she told herself firmly while getting ready for work one morning. "He's your mentor, your boss. He sees you as a protege, maybe even as a daughter figure, nothing more." But sometimes she caught him looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Something warmer than professional interest, something that made her heart beat faster. On a crisp Saturday in mid-November, Robert invited Lily to join him for a special foundation event, the opening of a new free clinic funded by the Chen Compassion Foundation. As they toured the facility together, meeting the staff and seeing the equipment their funding had provided, Lily felt a surge of pride and purpose. "This is really happening," she said softly, watching as a mother brought her child in for what would be a free checkup. "We're actually making a difference." Robert smiled, watching her rather than the clinic around them. "This is just the beginning. Imagine what we could do with the full resources of Westbrook Enterprises behind your vision." Later, as they shared a quiet lunch in a nearby cafe, Robert seemed thoughtful, almost nervous, a stark contrast to his usual confident demeanor. "Lily," he said finally, "there's something I need to tell you. Something important." She set down her fork, suddenly apprehensive. "What is it?" "When I first started watching you after you helped me in the park, it was with the foundation in mind. I saw your compassion, your work ethic, your intelligence. I knew you'd be perfect to lead the kind of philanthropy I envisioned." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But as I got to know you better, through observation at first, and then directly, something unexpected happened." Lily's heart beat faster, but she kept her expression neutral. "Waiting. I found myself looking forward to our meetings more than any other part of my day," Robert continued. "I found myself thinking about you when we were apart. I found myself caring for you in a way I hadn't anticipated." He met her eyes directly, in a way I hadn't felt since Eleanor. Lily sat perfectly still, afraid that any movement might break this moment. "I know there are complications," Robert went on. "The age difference, our professional relationship, the fact that I've put you in an uncomfortable position by even saying this." He shook his head. "I don't expect you to reciprocate. I just felt you deserved to know the truth before making any decisions about your future, with the foundation or Westbrook Enterprises." Finally, Lily found her voice. "Is that why you offered me the position? Because of these feelings?" "No," Robert answered without hesitation. "I offered you the position because you're the right person for it. My personal feelings developed later, and they don't change your qualifications or my belief in your abilities." He reached for his water glass, his hand betraying a slight tremor. "If you want to continue our professional relationship and nothing more, I will completely understand and respect that boundary. The opportunity remains exactly as offered, regardless of your response to what I've just shared." Lily took a deep breath, feeling as though she stood on the edge of a cliff. The sensible part of her brain told her to thank him politely for his honesty and maintain their professional relationship. The cynical part wondered if this was some kind of test, but her heart urged her to be honest in return. "I felt it too," she admitted softly, the words coming out before she could reconsider them. "I tried not to. I told myself it was inappropriate, impossible even. But the truth is, I look forward to seeing you just as much. The hope that bloomed in Robert's eyes made him look suddenly younger. You do? Lily nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. It's terribly inconvenient of us both. That startled a laugh from him, warm and genuine. Indeed it is. Their eyes held across the table, the moment stretching between them, full of possibility and uncertainty. So what do we do now? Lily asked finally. We take it slowly, Robert suggested. We continue our professional work together. We spend time getting to know each other better, without pressure or expectations, and we see where it leads. And if people talk, if they think I'm with you for your money, or that you hired me because of personal interest, Robert considered this. People will always talk. What matters is what we know to be true. He hesitated, then added, but if you're concerned about perceptions, we could keep any personal relationship private for now, until you've established yourself independently at the foundation. Lily appreciated his understanding. I think that would be wise. I want to be taken seriously for my work. They finished their lunch, the conversation moving to safer topics. Foundation business, Lily's studies, a book they had both read recently. But something had shifted between them, a new awareness humming beneath the surface of their words. As they walked back to Robert's car, he stopped suddenly. There's one more thing we need to address, Lily. She looked up at him, curious. What's that? Your mother. I'd like to meet her if you're comfortable with that. Not as Robert Westbrook, chairman of Westbrook Enterprises, but as the man who's interested in her daughter. The request touched Lily deeply. Her mother had been asking to meet this mysterious benefactor for weeks now. Despite her memory problems, she had been clear-eyed and persistent about wanting to thank the person who had helped secure her care. She would love that, Lily said warmly. And so would I. The following Sunday found them at Sunny Pines, the assisted living facility where Lily's mother now lived in comfort, thanks to Robert's generosity. Lily had been nervous about the meeting, her two worlds colliding, but her anxiety proved unnecessary. Robert arrived with no fanfare, dressed casually and carrying a simple bouquet of daisies, her mother's favorite flowers, as Lily had once mentioned. He introduced himself simply as Robert, a friend of Lily's, with no mention of his wealth or position. Lily's mother, a tiny woman with Lily's same warm eyes, studied him for a long moment before breaking into a smile. So you're the one who's been making my daughter's eyes light up, she said with surprising clarity. Come sit and tell me about yourself. Robert spent the afternoon charming Lily's mother, listening to her stories with genuine interest, answering her sometimes confused questions with patience and kindness. When she inevitably tired, falling asleep mid-sentence as she often did now, Robert gently arranged her blanket over her and followed Lily out to the garden. She's wonderful, he said as they walked among the fall flowers. I can see where you get your spirit. She liked you, Lily replied, feeling a warm glow of contentment. She doesn't always take to new people these days. They found a bench beneath an old oak tree, its leaves a glorious red against the clear blue sky. For a while they sat in comfortable silence, watching residents and their visitors enjoying the mild afternoon. I've been thinking about your offer, Lily said finally. About Westbrook Enterprises, Robert turned to her, giving her his full attention but saying nothing. I'm ready to accept, with conditions. Name them, he responded immediately. First, I want to continue my education, finish my nurse practitioner program, and then take business courses. I need to feel qualified, not just chosen. Robert nodded. Completely reasonable. What else? Second, I want to start slowly. Learn the foundation thoroughly before taking on any broader role with your other companies. I don't want to be overwhelmed. Also sensible, he agreed. And third, Lily met his eyes directly. Third, I want us to be clear with each other. If this personal relationship between us doesn't work out, the professional opportunity remains. And if I ever feel I'm not the right person for this role, I can step away without it affecting what's between us personally. Robert's expression softened. Lily Chen, you continue to impress me with your thoughtfulness. Yes to all your conditions. I want you to succeed on your own terms, not mine. He hesitated, then took her hand gently in his. There's something else I've been wanting to ask you. Lily's breath caught at the serious tone in his voice. Would you consider moving to the guest house on my property? It's completely separate from the main house. Your own space, your own entrance. But it would make it easier for us to work together and to explore what's developing between us. The request surprised her. You want me to live on your estate? I want you to have a beautiful, comfortable place to live that's close enough for us to see each other easily, but separate enough to maintain your independence, Robert clarified. The commute from your apartment to both the foundation offices and the hospital is getting longer with winter coming. And frankly, I'd feel better knowing you're not working late shifts and then riding buses alone at night. Lily considered the offer. Her tiny apartment had served her well, but it had always been a compromise based on what she could afford, not what she wanted. And the practical advantages were undeniable. I'd like to see it first, she said cautiously. Of course, Robert replied. No pressure. It's just an option. The guest house, as it turned out, was nearly twice the size of her apartment, a charming cottage set among gardens on the far side of Robert's property. It had its own driveway, its own small yard, and windows that filled the rooms with light. Lily fell in love with it immediately. It's perfect, she admitted as they stood in the sunny kitchen. But I need to pay rent. A fair market value. Robert looked like he wanted to protest, then nodded in understanding. Your independence is important to you. I respect that. We'll work out a reasonable arrangement. Within 2 weeks, Lily had moved into the guest house, donated most of her old furniture to a women's shelter, and begun a new chapter of her life. The proximity made their work together more efficient. Late-night foundation discussions no longer meant long commutes home, and it allowed their personal relationship to develop naturally, without the pressures of public scrutiny. December arrived, bringing holiday decorations and a festive atmosphere to the hospital and foundation offices. Lily divided her time between her nursing shifts, now reduced to part-time, foundation work, her studies, and increasingly, time with Robert. They developed a comfortable routine, morning coffee together before heading to their respective offices, working dinners at the main house where they discussed foundation projects, quiet evenings reading by the fire or watching old movies that Eleanor had loved. Robert was unfailingly respectful of her space and independence, never presuming upon their growing closeness. As Christmas approached, Lily found herself happier than she had been in years. Her mother was well cared for. Her financial worries were behind her. Her work at both the hospital and foundation was fulfilling, and her heart was opening to possibilities she had never imagined. On Christmas Eve, after visiting her mother together, Robert invited Lily to dinner at the main house. When she arrived, she found the grand dining room transformed, lights dimmed, candles glowing, a small table set for two by the fireplace instead of the usual long, formal table. What's all this? She asked, smiling as Robert took her coat. I wanted tonight to be special, he answered, his eyes warm as they took in her simple green dress. You look beautiful, by the way. The dinner was perfect, her favorite foods, wine they had discovered they both loved, conversation that flowed easily between work topics and personal stories. As they finished dessert, Robert seemed to grow more serious. These past months have been the happiest I've known since Eleanor passed, he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. You've brought joy back into my life, Lily. Not just through your work with the foundation, but through who you are. Lily squeezed his hand gently. You've changed my life completely. Sometimes I can hardly believe how much. There's something I want to give you, Robert said, producing a small wrapped package from his pocket. An early Christmas gift. Lily unwrapped it carefully to find a small velvet box. Inside was not jewelry as she had half expected, but a key, old-fashioned and ornate. What does it open? She asked, curious. Come with me, Robert said, rising and offering his hand. He led her through the house to his study, stopping before an antique desk that had always been locked. Using the key she held, he opened the center drawer and pulled out a smaller box, which he handed to her. This was Eleanor's, he explained, as Lily opened it to reveal a simple but exquisite diamond ring. She told me before she died that someday, if I was fortunate enough to find love again, she wanted her ring to continue its journey. Lily looked up at him, her heart pounding. Robert. He took her hands in his blue eyes earnest. I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I know it's too soon. I know we still have much to learn about each other. But I want you to have this as a promise that whenever you're ready, if you ever are, I am waiting with my whole heart. Tears filled Lily's eyes. Are you sure? I'm not. I don't come from your world. You are my world now, Robert said simply. You and the future we could build together, not just for ourselves, but for all the people we could help through the foundation, through Westbrook Enterprises. Partners in every sense. Lily looked down at the ring gleaming in its box, then back at the man before her. No longer the homeless stranger in the rain. No longer just a billionaire mentor, but Robert, who saw her truly and valued her completely. I don't need time to think about this, she said softly. My answer is yes. Robert's expression transformed with joy. Yes to the ring, yes to us. Yes to the future, all of it. Lily smiled through her tears. I never believed in fairy tales, you know. But sometimes it seems reality can be even more extraordinary. As Robert slipped Eleanor's ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, as if it had been waiting for her all along, Lily thought of that rainy night in the park. One moment of kindness offered freely to a stranger in need had changed the course of her life in ways she could never have imagined. What are you thinking? Robert asked, noticing her distant expression. I'm thinking that we never know how one small action might ripple outward, she replied. When I stopped to help you that night, I was just doing what seemed right in the moment. I had no idea where it would lead. That's the beauty of kindness, Robert said, drawing her close. It transforms both the giver and the receiver in ways we can never predict. Outside the study windows, snow began to fall, soft, gentle flakes drifting down through the darkness. Inside, wrapped in Robert's arms, Lily felt a sense of homecoming, of rightness, of a journey completed and another just beginning. The broke nurse and the man in rags had found each other, across all the barriers of circumstance and chance, and together, they would build something beautiful, a life, a love, a legacy of compassion that would touch countless lives beyond their own. It had begun with a simple choice on a rainy night, to stop, to see, to help. And in that choice lay all the magic that followed. Not a fairy tale, but something richer and more true. A story of genuine hearts connecting, of kindness rewarded not by design but by the natural unfolding of lives meant to intertwine. As midnight approached on that Christmas Eve, Lily and Robert stood by the window watching the snow transform the world outside. Their reflections overlapping in the glass, two people who had found each other against all odds, ready to face whatever came next, together.